So today in the group meetings, there were so many beautiful intentions expressed. If there was a theme, it was about difficulties, difficult mental states, and difficult experience. Wanting to find more ease with that, more peace with that, more lightness with that. None of us are strangers to difficult mental states. Right now, there is so much dosa in the world, so much ill will in the world, so much dosa internally sometimes too. Let's face it, it happens. So much fear in the world, and fear internally. This practice, we come to this practice to find our footing in this tornado of difficulty that life sometimes offers us. And whether that be Vipassana practice or Metta practice, really the intention is so often to find release from fear, from ill will, from any unwholesome mind states. We seek inner refuge. And this is one reason I love to chant the the refuges at the beginning of the talk. Finding refuge is what this entire path of practice is about. So I want to speak tonight first a little bit about Vipassana and Metta to give you some context. And then I want to go on to begin. I hope to spend more time with this sutta this week to begin to speak about the Metta Sutta itself, because it's so precious to go back to the original source, which is why I gave you each a copy of it. And so you're welcome to write notes on it, take it home, reflect about it after the retreat. So when we seek refuge, internal refuge, most of us, just because of it's familiar, it's become very familiar, most of us end up practicing Vipassana at first. And Vipassana is described in Sati, is described in the Satipatthana Sutta as the direct path, the one-way path to the alleviation of all suffering. It only goes in one direction. And it's very direct. It doesn't take many detours. And this path of wisdom is a path of seeing clearly. That's what Vipassana means, which leads directly to liberating wisdom. Maybe not quickly, but directly. And often we practice Vipassana in isolation. Maybe we get an hour of Metta a day in a retreat, if that. Maybe there's a mention of a Metta as helpful in the Vipassana. But it's not, Metta is not usually taught as an equal partner to Vipassana. Metta tends to be underrated because it doesn't directly lead to that liberating wisdom. These are two very different practices, of course. Vipassana, it's that direct path that enters the doorway of the Dhamma through the seeing of absolute reality, directly and immediately. Vipassana, that direct path, leads to liberating wisdom through the doorway of seeing absolute reality directly and immediately. Metta bhavana, the cultivation of metta, on the other hand, can be liberating in a particular way, but we don't like it because it enters the doorway of the Dhamma through conventional reality. It is a relational practice. It uses as its the means of moving forward. It uses as its fuel all the stories of our lives, the people in our lives. Our immediate relationships. And so, if we want to be free from suffering, there is a very natural kind of, ooh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to face this stuff. But when we do in this practice, and we will, you will, when we do face all of this, it leads to powerful compassion, and it's really a back door into wisdom. It's not that direct path. You have to go around the back. And these two ways, these two caminos, they do not exist in isolation. They're deeply and naturally intertwined. So this is one thing that appears again and again and again in the Dhamma. No matter where you enter it, you find everything. So when one is doing Metta Bhavana, when one is cultivating loving kindness, the more mindful we are, the more connected we are, the easier it is. And when we do Vipassana Bhavana, the more we have an attitude of friendly acceptance, which is Metta, well then we can see anything and it doesn't disturb us. Equanimity is much easier to access. So these practices work together, even though they're very different. In Vipassana practice, in insight practice, we work with a diversity of moment-to-moment experience. And we may begin in one place with the rising and falling, say, of the abdomen. But we open out into any arising object being known just as it is. At least in this Mahasi tradition, concentration in Vipassana can be quite strong, but it's momentary. One object, one object, one object, one object. The mind is fixed in a momentary way on each arising object. And what we see when we do this, what we understand from this, leads directly to uprooting permanently unwholesome mind states. Metta practice, on the other hand, is a samatha practice. It's a concentration practice that depends on fixed attention in one place. So there is a powerful focus that develops on this well-wishing, this phrase, this intention for ourselves or another being. So it pacifies unwholesome mind states more than uprooting them, or rather than uprooting them. And what provides the pacification is the concentration. The metta that develops does other things. Primarily, it embraces everything. It's a powerful acceptance and well-wishing. And we use a progression of different people, different beings, to deepen and develop this quality of acceptance. So if you want a very short, easy to remember way of differentiating Vipassana from Metta, one can say that in Vipassana we pay attention in order to understand. Whereas in Metta we pay attention in order to care. And this is where that beautiful complementarity comes in. Because the more we care, the more we can understand. And the more we understand, the more we care. You can see where this goes. Deeper and deeper and deeper. We have to care about difficulties in order to transcend them. Because these difficulties we face, mental difficulties, difficulties in life, the only way out is in. So that inner attitude of acceptance that metta brings is absolutely essential. It's very easy when we just do vipassana without that attitude to get stuck. And where we get stuck is fighting reality. We read and we hear about uprooting the kilesa, any unwholesome mind states. My preceptor, Upandita, said to me the day I ordained, "Now you are a soldier in the army of the Dhamma. No mercy to the kilesas." And I was like, give it to me. I was totally into that kind of warrior attitude. And I misunderstood what he meant. No mercy doesn't mean fighting the kilesas. No mercy means accepting that they are there, knowing them very clearly, and unplugging them from any food, not feeding them by way of resistance or by way of directly following them. And in order to do that, you have to be willing to face them and go, oh, yeah, I'm not so equanimous right now. Not to try to be a perfect yogi and when something comes up, it's like, oh, that's a kilesa. One of my first teachers, Munindra, always used to say, surrender to the law. So surrender to the law means understand difficulties will arise. And there is, in the face of difficulty, a wholehearted willingness to receive and know phenomena. This is that inner attitude of metta that leads directly to freedom. So in this metta bhavana that we're doing in this retreat, we're getting more and more and more skilled at inclining to metta. Because this is a concentration, because we keep going there, we gain not just skill, but we gain a habit of always going in that direction. Always going in the direction of kindness, acceptance, friendliness, where we can really acknowledge, feel, connect with whatever is arising in our experience. And a lot of what we experience when we do this practice is the opposite of metta. This is the little secret we don't tell people about, because this would be an empty Dhamma hall if people knew. Well, Donatella and I, maybe Sandra, a few other people might be here, but no. Because we enter the Dhamma in the metta practice through the doorway of conventional reality, all our stuff comes up. All the ways we can't accept, don't want to accept, really dislike, or whatever gets in the way of metta, we will see it. Honestly, sometimes when you do this practice, when I do this practice, it feels like I'm a 2-year-old child with a tantrum. And you know how kids, they can be hysterical. They can be angry. They can be full of grief. They can be, it all can come up. And we're like that sometimes, internally. But with metta bhavana, there is a full-hearted acceptance and a willingness to hold it, where we really connect with that experience, that felt experience, as we continue to radiate metta anyway. And that word, most of you are by now very familiar with it. It's so helpful. Anyway. Yes, I'm full of fear. May I be well, happy, and peaceful anyway. Yes, I'm full of anger. May I be well, happy, and peaceful anyway. Greed, confusion, total ungroundedness, whatever it is, may I be at ease anyway. Or may I be at ease with this anyway. Acknowledge this, whatever it is, it has arisen, holding it, and inclining to metta. This trains the mind and heart. It develops the mind and heart in an ability to be with absolutely anything. So that when we do the Vipassana practice and we come to those places in the practice of real existential terror or dukkha or whatever it is, we can do the same thing. We can take a moment in the Vipassana practice and go, whoa, things are coming and going and coming and going and coming and going. There's nowhere to... May I be at ease with this anyway? And in doing this, we don't get lost in panic about whatever that happens to be. And we can just be there and do our best to just observe change calmly. Or maybe we're faced with just this incredible amount of dukkha, which sometimes happens in the Vipassana practice. The Vipassana practice can be a little perverse. When we begin to have a real continuity of mindfulness and an ease of observing, there can be a lot of concentration and all sorts of pleasant experiences, and everything feels light, and the mind is very, very present, moment to moment to moment. And we think, oh boy, I'm going to Nibbana. Maybe this retreat. And we keep observing in this way, and it all falls apart into this cauldron of dukkha. The amount of pain that can be felt in the body is unbelievable. And there's a place in the Vipassana practice we call the dukkha jnanas, the knowledge of dukkha. And the dukkha jnanas can last a long time, depending on people. And what they are is the repeated observation of dukkha, so that we eventually are able to rest in equanimity. But that eventually, it takes a while to get balanced with that. So when we have this skill with metta that you are developing this week, is much easier to be with. Because we have here developed this skill at that wholehearted acceptance. That willingness to be with anything, anyway. So we may enter the Dhamma in this practice through our conventional life, but it directly feeds our ability to do the Vipassana practice. So metta is particularly useful in facing any form of dosa, meaning, and that's a Pali word, of course, meaning anything from mild irritation to rage. Dosa is said to be the far enemy of metta. It's the opposite of metta. It directly opposes metta, and metta directly opposes dosa. So not only does this practice give us a skill base to face dosa, but it directly replaces it. So this is what I mean when I speak of the back door into insight. We see the emptiness of dosa and all those stories that we tell ourselves. And we see it in this practice experientially, because it's all about the stories, and it's all about that experience of dosa. And it can be quite shocking when it happens. And I know a number of you know this for yourself directly in your experience. How really strong dosa can be instantly replaced by really strong metta. It can be such a surprise when it happens. Whoa, where did all that anger go? All conditioned things are of the nature to change, and it just changed. That's all. But we're so attached to the stories around it. We think, oh, it's solid. Oh, here's this story again. I'm sick of seeing it. I've seen it 1,000 times. Or here's this habit of anger. I'm such an angry person. Here it is again. And we take that dosa and turn it into something that is I, me, and mine. But when the balloon pops, it's like, oh, that's impermanent too. So the power of metta to show us this and to replace dosa can really change our psyches. So I can honestly tell you that I'm sitting here in these clothes with this hairdo because of a moment of that. My very first long Vipassana retreat, longish, it was only 10 days. My very first Vipassana retreat that was more than a few days. The first morning of the retreat, I was caught in a cyclone of rage, which was, I have to say, habitual. The friend with whom I traveled to the retreat did something that really made me angry. It was nothing, but you know how retreats are. It's like somebody can do something and it's like, ah. It was a Vipassana retreat. I wasn't actually doing Metta Bhavana, but we were upstairs in the Dhamma hall after breakfast, after I'd had this explosion. And in that retreat, it was a room maybe 4 times the size of this, about as many people, and we did our walking meditation by walking in a circle. We'd sit, and we'd push our cushions to the wall, and then we'd walk, and then we'd sit, and we'd walk. We didn't go outside. So I was doing my walking meditation, lifting, moving, placing, lifting, moving, placing. Every time her socks went by, there was another explosion of rage. And the stories. And I kept having to stop in the middle of the walking note, rage, 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 and really feeling it. And I feel very grateful for the willingness to feel it. That metta attitude is like, okay, rage is here, now what? Okay, I guess I get to feel this. And I still remember where I was and where she was. When one moment I was standing there, my eyes open, kind of staring into space, noting rage, 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 and feeling it with that metta attitude, when it just vanished. And what it was replaced by was something I had never in my whole life experienced, but it was metta. And it wasn't just a little metta. It was in proportional to the strength of the rage. That was what I hadn't experienced before. It was not just for her, it was for everybody in the room and for the whole world. It was like I was suddenly just filled with metta. And so when we chant, boundless, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, it's possible. It's like, whoa. I look back on that experience with both gratitude and amusement. Gratitude because obviously it opened a door to something. I mean, after that, it was like, forget whatever else I was doing with my life. I have to do this. I have to follow this, wherever it goes. Amusement because it's nothing special when metta replaces dosa. That's what it does. That's its job. This is totally normal. It's not a special experience. Oh, it's just what metta does. That's all. Of course, I thought at the time, wow, that's profound. And got very attached to it, of course. It's like, I have to find this. But when you surrender to the law, as Munindra said, that's what happens. We fall face first into metta. And we understand, this is a natural state of mind. I just have to find a way to access it. And dosa isn't as solid as I always assumed. It's like that for all of us. And I'm not one of those super yogis. I'm really not, believe me. For me, I think that was just beginner's luck. I got a glimpse of reality. And we can, this is what the Dhamma does. This is what this practice is supposed to do. So we spend our time here inclining over and over and over and over again to this well-wishing. We plant seeds of metta when we do this. And what we're doing when we plant those seeds is we're creating the conditions for it to arise spontaneously later, to give us one of those delightful surprises that I just told you about. I had, or you've also had these delightful surprises. They will arise. Keep planting the seeds. I didn't get as far as I thought I would today, so I want to close with a quote from the Anguttara Nikaya. We'll start with the Metta Sutta next time, but I'll leave you with this quote of the Anguttara. And the Buddha says, monks, all of us, we're like bhikkhus here, I do not see even one other thing, on account of which ill will is abandoned, so much as the liberation of mind by loving kindness. For someone who attends carefully to the liberation of mind by loving kindness, latent ill will does not arise, and arisen ill will is left behind. So may we all attend carefully to the liberation of mind by loving kindness and experience that directly in this very retreat. So let's sit quietly and let the words settle.